Oh man, that sounds ridiculous. For me, the foundation is the drums. You can have a killer electric guitar player and bass player and vocalist, but if the drums are sounding flat, it is going to let your whole recording sound flat. So there's a few ways that you can do this with drums. The technique that I'm gonna use today is what most people are doing, and it's a bit of a cheat method, but I'm gonna show it for you. All right, everybody, we're here in Pro Tools, and I've imported all of the recorded tracks from Sunday. I'm just gonna give a listen to this this is all flat, no EQ or nothing. This is what it sounds like. Most people nowadays are using samples. So let's get these drums, let's get samples here. Right here you can hear just the sound of the raw kick drum. And that sounds pretty good. And what I've done is added some EQ here with this SSL channel. Gives it a little bit more definition, and I rolled off 30 Hertz and below. All right, you can kind of see what I'm doing. I used this frequency right here to cut it. Kind of that boxy sound. I got like -6 dB cut on that. And I'm adding right about 3 decibels of 8K shelf. And then about 3 decibels of this 2K frequency. So this is before and after there. So now I'm gonna add a multiband compressor from Waves. It's a C4 plugin. Here's what it sounds like. Without and with. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is bring out this really cool Pultec MEQ5 plugin. And that's just adding a lot of character on the kick. Without. It's pretty cool because this is a subtractive kind of a knob right here. So I'm subtracting that like 300 Hertz right here. See? So like -6 dB or whatever this, I don't know if it's dB or if it's just a knob. It's just like an analog kind of a knob. This is your low range right here. I'm not doing anything there. And then I'm boosting about 2K right here on this. So before and after. And with my chart here, this is my visual mixing guide. I make sure that the kick and the snare and the battery toms are actually really like present in the mix. So that's what everything else is going to build on top of. All right, so let's unmute the snare raw. Now, thankfully, our drummer is a very good tuner. Like, he knows how to tune the drums really well to a specific frequency. So the drums sound really good right out of the gate. I'm gonna do a light EQ here, just a stock Pro Tools plugin here. See, what I'm doing is finding that natural frequency resonation right there. There it is. It's right around there, but that's the fatness. All right, now let's throw a compressor on it, the API 2500. Really fast release time here. And a pretty slow attack time. Here's without. I'm going to throw another compressor on there. Now this one is crazy. I don't always use this one, but this is the Bomb Factory 1176. This is a crazy one. This actually brings a lot of that energy, that snap. It also brings the noise floor up a lot. So it's kind of, it depends on how loud the drummer is playing the hi-hat and the cymbals. Sometimes you can get away with it, but one way that we combat this is trying to add a sample in, or you can even do like noise gate. So let's try the noise gate method here really quick. I'm going to add another, let's throw a noise gate in. Cleaned up the hi-hat a little bit. Now, you could do that if you didn't have any drum samples, but what I like to do is I like to throw the drum sample in there. And so what I'm gonna do is take this drum sample, unmute it right here. I'm using the Steven Slate Trigger 2 plugin, and I'm using some samples from the Get Good Drums library, the Modern and Massive library. And so here's what the snare trigger sounds like. All right, so here's where the gain staging needs to happen a little bit. The trigger volume is a little bit too low. It's not hitting enough velocity inside of trigger. So what I'm gonna do is raise up the gain structure of this top snare mic for just the sample. And the more decibels that I give it, the more of a snap that snare is gonna have. Okay. Just a little bit too much. All right. Now we're gonna add the EQ. Rolling it off around 86 hertz right there, giving some snap around 8K on the bell curve, about 6 decibels, and we are adding 200 hertz just for some fatness. All right. So now what I like to do is just kind of see what that sounds like in the mix. All right, I'm gonna focus more in on these drums. So let's add a sample here to the kick now. This is again from the Modern and Massive Get Good Drums kit, and I'm triggering it using the Steven Slate Trigger plugin. So let's listen to that. It's cheating, right? I'm going to noise gate this. This SSL plugin has a noise gate. So I'm going to try to clean up this first original raw kick track. There we go. Not as much bleed from the cymbals there. Same thing with the cymbals. All right, you're already hearing the drum set improve a little bit. I like to compress the snare to really emphasize that snap on the hit. All right, here's the API 2500. Let me try this Bomb Factory one again. Woo! That one sounds real intense. Back down the output a little bit. So that the compressor for me is not just like an audio leveling thing, it's actually a tone generating plugin. So it gives a little bit of saturation and a little bit of snap on that snare drum that that's really what you're hearing in those big worship mixes with Bethel, and you're hearing a heavily compressed snare sample. And so that's really the key to getting your drums really like locked in and just sounding like they're so punchy, and that's really the secret behind it. So let's throw a few more. This is a compressor with it. And then I just did like kind of a surgical EQ on the snare drum. It's a little bit more flat sounding with its when it's muted. Here's unmuted. I raised up the fat frequency here. That natural resonance. Fat sound, and then I boosted about 2 decibels of 6K, and then I took out this harsh ringy boxy sound. This is a stock plugin from ProTools. It's the EQ3 7-band EQ, and it's really helpful. I'm actually gonna roll off everything below like 70 hertz. We don't need any of that. Cool. All right, so now we're gonna throw in the snare bottom, see what it sounds like. Here's the snare bottom. I can hear a little bit of phasing issues with it. So what I'm gonna do is press this phase button. All right, so press the phase in. To my ear, that sounds a little better. It's kind of hard to tell. We have a brass snare drum, and there's like a little bit of a resonance inside of the drum that kind of makes it sound like it's out of phase. Let's throw a compressor on that snare bottom. Again, the noise floor goes way up with this Bomb Factory plugin, and you got to use it to taste. I don't have my snare bottom super hot in the mix usually, so let's just listen to the kick and the snare with the samples. All right, here's with no samples right here. So that is no samples right there. It sounds okay, but it sounds a little fluffy. Snare sample and kick sample. All right, so let's add some cymbals with that. Here's the hi-hat sound by itself. So what I hear is a really unnecessary low end on the hi-hat. We don't need that super low end, so I'm gonna engage this. I rolled off everything beneath like 120 hertz. Okay. Add in the kick. I still hear a lot of that low end that's just so heavy. So turn it down to just a little bit. I wonder what happens when you compress this sound. I'm gonna try it. Because why not? I've never done it before. One benefit to doing that is it kind of sounds more natural. So when you have these like really beautiful sounding, polished, fake snare samples and kick samples, this kind of raw cymbal sound makes it sound more natural. Okay. All right, next thing that we're gonna do is take a look at these toms. Here's the rack tom by itself. Let's just kind of do that tom on repeat here. If you want to do that, you just select the section and then you go into your options right here, and it's right here to loop playback, or Shift Apple L is the hotkey. All right, let's engage my first plugin here. I'm actually hearing a really nasty frequency that it's not doing much to get out yet. Right there. I'm going to try to get some more snap. And then I'm going to try to find the natural resonance of this low end. All right, before and after. This is the threshold on the gate. I love this SSL plugin, man. This is probably my #1 most used plugin because it has low cut, high cut, a high shelf, a high mid parametric EQ, a low mid parametric EQ, a low shelf, and it has a compressor, it has a noise gate, and then it also has like these sidechain inputs, and then it also has this analog switch, and then a phase switch. It's just like ridiculous how much it has. All right, so that's that tom. Let's put some more EQ on it with this next plugin. This is one of that more surgical kind of a approach here. All right, so I've cut 139. I don't know why. Maybe there's another time. Let me just reset this, okay? I'm gonna find this nasty frequency. It's pretty nasty. That boxy sound again. Yuck. All right. I'm gonna find a nice warm frequency for this drum. There it is. You hear it? I'm rolling off everything below like 60. If you want, you can add some snap on the tom. Okay, so here's before. Really flat, and it sounds like paper almost. First plugin, second plugin. There's a compressor. I'm using the CLA 3A. I love this compressor a lot. It's like not high maintenance at all. There's not a lot of settings to it. It's just really easy to use. All right, now let's go to the second tom. All right, first plugin, same process here. Just find that bad frequency. There it is. Take it out. I'm gonna bring in some low end here. It's actually really hard to hear. So I don't want to do too much with this. All right, next plugin. Oh, there it is. All right, so looks like I have subtracted a bunch of 231. Let's hear that. Yeah, that sounds pretty nasty. And then this 65 hertz frequency sounds pretty warm to me. It's the natural resonance of that drum. Too much though makes it sound like a synthetic sound, which you don't really want, unless you do want it. Maybe you do want that. A little bit of snap at 6K. All right. Now that I'm hearing them back to back, I'm going to bring back this low frequency. Okay. Snare sample is pretty hot. All right, the drums are starting to slap a little bit, so to speak. Let's add in those overheads. And I'm going to speed us up a little bit since I've kind of been down this road a little bit already. Here's the overheads by themselves right here. You can really, if you had headphones on or a subwoofer around you could kind of hear that low frequency. You can hear the room sound. It's very low end sounding. The first thing we're going to do is cut that. There we go. That just automatically cleans it up right there. I'm not going to do too much EQ to this. Just a little bit of this nasty, boxy 400 hertz sound. Duplicate that. Compressor, compressor. Okay, so here is the drums by themselves. And we're going to do a few more steps to make this even slap more. All right, so what I've done is routed just a mono send to this this subharmonic thing. It kind of simulates a really big like arena subwoofer, just like getting hit in the chest by the kick drum. I have it very low settings. It's just barely hitting it. And if you didn't have a subwoofer or headphones that can really handle that frequency range, you can't really hear it. But this is what it sounds like. Without, with, it's pretty cool. I've also routed the, I can put the other sample in there if you wanted to. You can't do too much routed through that because it will start to really degrade the quality. Here's the floor tom through it. Kind of hear that, how it is hitting that Pro subharmonic plugin. This is what it is right here. This Pro subharmonic. You get this when you subscribe to ProTools Studio, which is their middle grade plan. I think it's like $35 a month. There is a ProTools First plan. And I don't remember how much that is off the top of my head, but it's way cheaper than that. Okay, so the drums are starting to slap a little bit. Now I'm going to do something. Our drums kind of sound like raw right now, like they're very dry. So I'm going to add this drum reverb. So I've routed our, let's see, basically the whole kit through it, but I'm going to mainly have the snare snapping through that and the tom. So let's listen through just kind of A-B sound of this thing. without. Still sounds really good. There is a reverb on the snare sample, so you're also hearing that. But if you want more dramatic snap on the snare, you can add a reverb. That long tail reverb, I'm using this plugin from Valhalla Room, and this is my favorite reverb plugin of all time. I got the decay set at like 1.81 seconds, and it's just, man, this plugin, there's ridiculous sounding plugins, but this one kind of takes the cake for me. All right, last thing that we're gonna do to the drums, and then we're gonna start building with the bass and the electric guitars. We're gonna do some parallel compression. And actually, for now, it's actually not parallel compression, and I'll show you why. We're routing all of these drum channels through one bus send for the drums. See, the output right here is all going to that output. Actually, this one needs to go there too. Drum bus, there it goes. So all the drums are going through this bus. And we're gonna start adding some processing to the overall drum mix. Just a little bit of high-end boosted here. Not much, honestly. I'm gonna back it down here, because it's clipping a bit. Okay. That's a little bit more manageable. I'm gonna throw a compressor on it now. That just slaps, man. Sounds so good. All right. Let's keep going. Let's add the bass. Now, this particular Sunday, we did not have a bass player, so we cheated. We put the bass through the multi-tracks and routed it out separately, so this is actually like the studio sound of the bass. So it sounds really good off the top. Now, I can throw some more processing on it, but honestly, I'm not going to do much. Maybe roll off the deep sounds. Now, if I didn't have a heavily processed multi-track sound, what I would do is use the CLA bass plugin. You can kind of see how intense it sounds. Here's without. And here's with. It just sounds so intense. And if you had, a bass guitar just going directly in, you kind of need a amp simulation. So we don't need that for this case. And I'm not even going to route it through this Pro Subharmonic like I did the drums, because the multi-track version of this bass actually has that deep subharmonic sound on it. It would just be duplicating that. It just gets out of control really quick. All right, so here's acoustics next. let's go ahead and just solo out the acoustics. Some saturation. Some EQ, not too heavy. Some roll off here, 120, adding about 8K. Compressor. I don't like that. Multiband comp. Now there's a lot of wrong notes here I'm hearing played, so I'm going to favor this left guitar. All right, so here is the electric guitar. All right, we've got a guitar player who is still figuring out his tone. So I'm going to try to make some adjustments here on his tone on our end, but something like that can't really be fixed in the post process. You really have to work on your tone before it gets recorded. So let me try to do what I can with this tone. I'll show you a little cheat sheet, a little cheat method that I use here. Just sounds super fuzzy and muddy, and try to clean it up a little bit. Okay. Before and after. All right, so what I'm going to do to cheat this method here, I'm going to fast forward to some reverb effects. I created a room using that Valhalla plugin, and we're going to route the electric guitar through that. So that helps a little bit with the tone. Okay, let's see if the compressor is doing anything on this. Okay. Next, we have a multi-track electric that we have. All right, let's put that in the mix. I'm going to pan it hard right. All right. Since we're on electrics, let's go ahead and just see if there's any other I think I hear some from these multi-tracks. Now I did this same trick here too. I routed the multi-tracks through the room reverb because it makes it sound a little bit more natural. Here's the percussion. See, that's without any reverb. Here's with. It makes it sound like it's kind of in the room. Okay. So multi-track pad. Same thing. All I'm doing is just routing it through a reverb. So that's without the reverb, and this is with. Okay. Next, what else we got? We got keys. Let's listen to these. You know what? I don't think we had a piano player that day either. Nope, we didn't. So I'm not using any processing on these at all. Except maybe the reverb. All right, since I'm cheating so much, I gotta be fair. I want you to hear it without any multi-tracks in it so far, okay? Because it's cheating with the multi-tracks. But sometimes you gotta give yourself an advantage when you don't have a full team sometimes, and people get sick and they call off at the last minute, and it happens. And so we gotta help ourselves out sometimes too. We haven't worked on vocals yet. We're getting there. We're gonna just working ourselves down the line here. Okay, so we're nearly there. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe. And also, if you would like my free mixing guide, just this visual mixing guide, I'm gonna give that to you for free. I hope it helps you mix in the future, and we'll see you next time.